Doom, doom, doom.
Hey guys, happy Glocktober. Don't know what Glocktober is? Check it out, glocktober.us. Site run by gun websites. Pretty cool. And tonight, before we get to the introductions here, we're going to be talking about knives. Specifically, we're going to start off with talking about the Glock knives. I was hoping G-Webs would actually join in because he's got a bunch of them and knows the history a little bit better than I do. Well, a lot better than I do. But also, stay tuned. The person over at gunchannels.com will win a Glocktober prize pack. That's right. I'm just going to pick a name at random, to be honest with you. There's no criteria to enter. You just got to be participating over there starting after my going live post. So I see you posting after that, you're eligible to win. I'll just do some sort of random drawing. Or the post that makes me laugh the most or cringe the most, whatever it may be.
So what do they have to do? Make a funny post?
They can do a funny post, make me cringe. I don't care. As long as I remember your name.
See, I was thinking like tomorrow I do like a question anyone can answer, but I'm going to give them the answer at the beginning of the chat, and then for those that are still there at the end, I've already been given the answer, and then the first person to repeat what the answer is wins.
Yeah, I was thinking of doing something similar to that, Dano, but with the way Gun Channels is so laggy. Right now, it's like, 10 people could enter it, and the last person that entered it could actually be first on the list. It's just the way it's going.
Right.
But we're going to do introductions here. There's only 4 of us, so this won't take long. We got just Dano.
That would be me, and tomorrow is my chat, in case you're wondering. And yes, for those of you who want to see, I brought my Glock knife. There it is, in all of its beauty. Ta-da!
He's got the 78, just in case anybody was wondering.
Is that the OD or the FD?
It's the OD. OD green.
Oh, no, he's got the 81. Sorry, I couldn't see the sawback.
Yeah.
He's got the 81 correction.
Yeah, on this I don't know the model numbers, but it's the sawback and the OD.
Yeah. There are two versions that I'll get into after we do introductions. Then we got Moon Fluid 78, correct?
Yep.
On my screen, I'm stabbing Nathan.
That's not what I see.
We got Nathan from Nathan's Armory, and I don't know why I keep saying that's redundant.
He keeps saying because he keeps stabbing him.
Yeah, well, Dano, guess what? I'm squishing your head. I'm squishing your head.
And you got myself. If you don't know who I am, well, you definitely tuned into the wrong chat, and I feel sorry for you. Yes, because you get to experience me. Yeah, at least I'm clothed. Or so you think.
For right now.
Yeah. But we're going to start this off since it is Glocktober, the unofficial Glock month. And we just got done with Sig-tember. So it's appropriate Glock will follow Sig. Sig always comes first, but no, seriously, Glock does make a couple of knives. You've got the Glock 78, which is what I call the plain back version. And they got the Glock 81, which is the sawback or the entrenching tool.
Yeah, I have the sawback Glock 81 OD.
Yeah, and they come in 3 different color variations. They come with a black handle, the green handle, and the tan handle. It depends how you look at the websites, but that's how they're normally listed.
We call it Coyote.
Yeah, Coyote tan, or you got the OD green.
I need a Steyr AUG to attach to my Glock knife, though.
Yep,
that would be the ultimate Glock knife accessory.
And the Glock knife does attach as a bayonet to the Steyr AUG, which is kind of cool. They're pretty nice knives. If you haven't bought one yet, and I recommend anybody that doesn't own a Glock knife that even likes knives and wants a fixed blade knife, get a Glock knife. They're very much like their guns. They're pretty much indestructible. I mean, they really take a beating, and explain what I did to my knife here shortly, but the other thing nice about them is they're under $40. Often they're under $30. So they're cheap. They do a few things that some people think as negatives, like they don't have a full tang, but that's not a big deal with this knife. That's really the only major drawback that they have is not the full tang for people that like their fixed blades with a full tang, and they tend to have kind of a slick handle. Sorry, I'm reading the internal here.
Which nowadays does have a relatively easy fix.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. It does have a relatively easy fix. Stippling.
You want to go to the store and buy skate tape.
Yeah, grip tape, or you can do stippling if you got the time, which I did on mine. But mine has taken a really beating. I find the coating on mine was wearing off way too fast, so I just stripped it down to bare metal, which works for me because they all come with the black coating on them. And I've beaten on the back of mine, and I got the 81, which has the sawback. I beat on the back of mine with a 20-ounce hammer and have not damaged the saw blades at all. I was actually splitting a piece of wood. Yeah, thank you. Piece of wood. I'm trying to think of the exact same from underneath the bed. The slats I ran across those old, twin-size beds. The slats. There we go.
Yep.
Which was 3/4 of an inch thick with the back, and I was using the frickin' hammer because I was too lazy to go inside and get the beaten up rubber mallet, and I didn't want to use the good rubber mallet because I didn't want to dig it up, so I just used the hammer.
Or you have your Glock knife at hand.
Hey, and it handled it no problem. I mean, I put it through a torture test, and it does take a sharpening fairly well, keeps an edge fairly well, and then you can't beat them.
You can beat them with a 10-ounce hammer, 20-ounce hammer.
Yeah, I think it's 20 ounce. It's either a 20 or 24.
Well, I've had Glocks, but I've never had a Glock knife. Although I have looked at the K-bar weaver rail accessory for the Glocks. I thought to myself, how effed am I if I'm
Nathan had a stroke.
I was just going to say, was that my system or Nathan's system going out?
I must have lagged, sorry.
You said, how fucked am I if you need a...
And then you stopped.
Oh, well, how screwed am I if I need a bayonet on the end of my Glock?
I thought we were supposed to answer how fucked you were.
Well, there's plenty of ways I could answer that, but I decided against it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the thing about, bayonets on handguns.
It's easy in the forest.
Wouldn't you rather have like a little, Derringer or something like that at that point? I would not want a little 2-inch blade, which is what they are on the end of the Glock.
Yeah, I think it'd be more effective to have a light with a strobe on it.
I wonder if and I don't know why not, but there's always a reason why not in our society. Why, if somebody wanted to, if they could conceal carry that, as long as they had a holster that sheathed the knife.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
That's a knife chat.
About time Huck joined the knife chat.
Well, we're talking about a Glock with a knife on it.
You just got everything to load.
That was a joke.
G-Web's in his Google personality. But, I know 4 of us here have Glock knives. I know Nathan doesn't.
Oh.
So,
Hey, whoa! I do have a Glock and I do have lots of knives, so kind of there.
kinda. Hey, and we got G-Webs joining us. It must have been my Google remark.
I have a K-bar that looks kind of like a big Glock knife.
So now that we got G-Webs and Huck in here, then you can kind of, I'm going to kind of do this one with Dano first because I know he recently got his. I think Moonfood has had his Glock knife a lot longer.
Yeah, I've had mine for a while.
So, Dano, how do you like the Glock knife?
I have not put it through enough uses to come up with a solid opinion one way or the other. So.
Okay, your first-ish impressions.
Oh, I like it. I really like the way it works with the sheath, as far as how you break it loose from the sheath when it's on your belt, and how it locks in positively into the sheath when you're done with it. That part I really like a lot. You know, it's not just sitting there by friction, which might be enough or might be too much. It's a very positive click in, very easy to click out.
And it doesn't have multiple snaps, which is kind of a pain with some knives, yes.
Yep, it just snap in, snap out.
For a retention system, I do like that system. I normally don't like retention systems on fixed blades, but on the Glock, it's not a bad thing. I like how the belt loop opens and closes. It's a secure.
You don't have to take your belt off to put it on your belt.
That's one, and it's a very secure method. It's not like a lot of them that that do that. You don't have to take your belt off, but it snaps in place.
Right.
And those snaps are a lot easier to undo than that Glock fixture. And then, if I have my Glock knife handy, I turn my camera on and show you what I mean. But there's a piece of plastic. It kind of looks like a J that goes into a channel, and you just you pull it out and you slide it back in. It's very simple.
And the one thing that you did mention is the handle is a little bit could use a little bit of roughening up for a little bit more friction.
A Lock and Moon's showing it to us.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, it makes it very easy to put on your belt if you've already got your belt on.
Very good design, that's it.
Easy to take off without having to take your belt off.
Yeah. And you guys know me, and I'm not a huge fan of Glock the firearm, but I will not diss their knives at all.
But But Glock the Gaston is another story.
Still not a fan of Glock grip angles, but I'm actually thinking about just getting over that since everybody knows the story, so I won't go into that. And I'm sorry to see G-Webs had to leave the group because I was going to ask him the history, but Huck, I know that you've played around a lot with a Glock knife. You've done a lot to them. Do you see any disadvantages to the Glock knife?
Yeah, the only main disadvantage I've ever noticed is that it's the blade geometry and edge angles and bevels and so on are designed like a bayonet, and so it's not very sharp and it's not very easy to sharpen.
Well, Huck, it actually is a bayonet.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's designed. Okay. It's designed to fit a certain role, and so as a regular, everyday, like EDC knife or personal use knife, it's not the most fantastic thing ever, but it's not designed for that. It's designed to be the Styrock bayonet. So
right.
In that role, it's fantastic, and as a combat knife, which is mainly stabbing, very little slashing. It's even more effective because it's got a good long thin blade with a good sharp point.
Yeah. Now I've got to play around with the sawback feature a lot, and I find that it's not really a sawback. You can cut branches and stuff with it. It takes a little bit of effort, but you can. It's really designed to be like as I've heard it mentioned, an entrenching tool where you're.
Well, it's a root saw.
A root saw.
It's designed for digging. I mean, it's not designed. If you look at any specialty knives made for metal detector guys or explosive ordnance guys, they all have the same type of saw. It's not super effective for cutting big branches off or anything, but it is super effective because it's so square for notching for survival traps or triggers and so on and so forth.
Yep.
If you're laying like a line in the ground, you can pick up the roots. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good for what it's for.
Yeah, and anybody that's out there looking at getting a Glock knife and it's got the spare cash, it's not much. I say get one. You know, it's well worth the money. I mean, I think it's an extreme value at, you know, under $40, and as I said, most of the time you can find them under 30.
And even if you can't afford the $40, just keep in tune for Glocktober. I'll be doing a custom stippled one that will be given away before the end of the month. So
awesome.
Keep it tuned on. I'm sure G-Webs will have the info on whenever that one's being given away.
All right, Dano is actually showing the the versus
Glock
the
bayonet with a M9 bayonet from Ontario Knives. It's for a M16. As far as the difference in the way that they look, of course, it's kind of hard to see. You know, I can turn them sideways, but I don't know if that's really going to show up well as far as the depth. But as far as the thickness of the steel, which really doesn't show up on camera, there is a significant difference in the thickness, absolutely, between the two. I mean, so it's not just this dimension here; it's also the thickness of the M9 itself. As far
Everything in Europe is more narrow.
Yeah. I'm going to say too, the M9 for the M16 is what, about 90 to 120, if I remember correctly.
I bought this probably 5-6 years ago. I can't remember what I paid, but both the grip of the M9, you get a lot more traction on that, significantly more than the Glock. I'm just trying to do a comparison here. That's all.
There's one major problem with that comparison is that one is produced by a commercial knife company and one is produced for military service.
Well, the other is also produced by a commercial knife company called Ontario Knife.
Yeah, no, I know who they are.
It's just that it's made to a military standard, but it's still made by a commercial knife company.
Yeah, the difference is that one was designed specifically for the military. The Ontario one was designed after a military bayonet. It was designed to be like a military bayonet and to function as one. It has the clips and everything on it, right?
This is a military bayonet. This is not a knockoff.
No, I'm not saying it's a knockoff. I'm saying it was designed to be like one, not designed as one. I don't know how to explain it better than that, but there is a difference.
You're saying the military gets their bayonets from that place? You got that from, Dano?
This one here, I mean, every aspect of it is significantly more beefed up.
Okay.
From this, as far as your hand slipping over the tang. What do you call this right here? The
guard.
No. Yeah, that being said, the Ontario ones are actually nicer than the military issue M9 bayonets. They're actually kind of garbagey and very disposable. But the Ontario, they make a very high quality product. Definitely not putting them down at all.
Yeah, I'm just, and the only reason I didn't pull out my World War II ones because it's not fair historically. But these are two that were made, basically the same time period, and both made as bayonets for two modern guns. Yet there are significant differences. But there's also a cost difference too. So, and whether it's a military product or not, the old statement of "you get what you pay for" many times is true. So that's all.
Yeah. One other thing I forgot to mention about the Glock, if you want to keep yours up there, Dano, and show people the pommel.
The pommel.
All right, now go up farther. Keep going. You're almost there. Where your finger is. All right, down there where he actually has his finger, that cap is removable. And the nice thing about that, with a removable cap, if you are in a survival situation, you need to make a spear, you can actually take that cap off and sharpen a stick to somewhat of a point, and then stick it in there and lash it on there. So you've got yourself a nice, handy spear.
Nice.
You like my pseudo
Yes.
spear?
Yes.
Demonstration.
My finger is the wood.
It's the icing on the
To
cake.
the bayonet. Now stabbing that person.
Or for hunting or whatever you're going to need it for.
Yes.
So that's a nice plus. And anybody got anything else to add about Glocks? Because then or Glock knives, I should say.
Nope. They're awesome. I need a black one.
Yep. And by the way, it doesn't help that Stone Guy went to the GSFF. Well, whatever it is, I can never say it. He won a couple, I think.
Foundation.
Yeah, the Glock Shooting Foundation. Shooting Sports
GSSF.
GSF. Yes, there we go. Yeah, I knew I was missing a letter in there.
GSSF.
The SS is for
Yes, you can
shooting
say.
sports. Glock Shooting Sports Foundation. GSSF.
The G to the double F to the S or whatever.
To the
S. Double S. I can't even do it. There you go.
All right, let's move on to just knives in general now. And everybody's got their EDCs, etc. We've done chats about this before, but I know there are people always out there that's looking for their first knife, and what they should looking for in their first knife. And there are so many knife manufacturers out there, and so many different price ranges. It's it can be daunting for somebody looking at that, going, why isn't this $3 knife that I can, or $5 knife I can get at Cabela's, any worse than this $120 Benchmade, or even a $30 Kershaw.
Hey, wait. The proper way to say that is, what is this $15 knife that I got at Cabela's that should be a $3 knife?
That is true. I was going to bring up Harbor Freight, but they're on my shit list, so. And I know Huck can go into a lot of detail about the differences in manufacturing, steel, etc. But if you're looking for that first knife, this is my opinion. I'm going to go first here, of course. Is you get what you pay for. Now, that's not saying that you've got to buy the most expensive knife out there to get a good quality knife. There are lots and lots of value knives out there. And I'm going to name my favorite brand for a value knife, because you get a lot for the money out of cold steel. You get a.
Did you say my name? I just got back. Sorry, I'm working.
Yeah, I kind of figured. Yeah, so I'm just saying, you're talking about a person that's looking for their first knife and what they should be looking for. It's going to vary by person to person, but I was going, value line, because that's where a lot of people start looking for their first knife, because they don't want to drop a whole lot of money. And I'm trying to tell them to stay away from the Cabela brand. Well, Nathan put it correctly, $15 knife that should really be priced at $3.
Yeah, there's very, very few good import knives out there as far as like cheapo brands. Occasionally, I have a whole bunch right now that are handmade in China, and they're literally handmade by one person, start to finish, and they're like hand finished and hand sharpened, really nice little knives. And they're clones of high dollar knives like Emerson's and stuff like that, and they're good knives. But very, very rarely will you get, for under $20, will you get a good knife. A Mora is usually the very, very first thing I suggest someone get, and specifically the Mora Companion, which is a little OD green and black one. I think you can get it in multiple colors, but
Yes.
Is that a fixed blade?
it's
Yes,
a
it
fixed
is.
blade, but it's a very small fixed blade. It looks like a kitchen knife. It's super simple. It looks like a fishing knife almost, or a diving knife or something. They have a nice secure sheath they lock into, and a very, very sharp, very high quality blade. And contrary to some people's beliefs, it's never a good idea to start somebody with a duller, cheaper blade. You should always get the highest quality, sharpest blade you can possibly afford.
Yeah,
You're a lot safer with a sharp blade.
I was going to break in and say the exact same thing. Was a sharp knife is a safe knife.
Oh no, but I never heard. I never knew that there was such a thing as people saying what Huck said. That a dull knife is a safe knife. Really?
Oh yeah,
Some
I
people
know a
might
lot of
think that.
people get their kids. Their first kid's knife will be the first knife they get their kids will be like a cheap Chinese Swiss Army knife. And one of the first things that happens is the kid will try to force it through something that it can't cut, and like slip through and slice through their fingers or stab it into their leg or something. Happens all the time.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, see, when I've seen stuff similar to that, I just assumed that the parent was too cheap to buy a decent knife. It had
Or
nothing
they
to
didn't
do
know
with
better.
safety. What?
Or they just didn't know better. They realized there's a difference.
Yeah.
And that too.
But think about the way most Americans are. They would think, oh well, if this knife isn't that sharp, it'll be safer for little Johnny to use. Which it's that's why there's a saying like the saying sharp axe is a safe axe because a dull axe bounces off trees and hits you in the leg. Same
Yeah.
goes with knives.
See, I've been in maybe out of my entire life, maybe 4 or 5 people that weren't knife makers or weaponsmiths of some kind that had sharp kitchen knives. I rarely ever run into somebody with really sharp kitchen knives. They're usually just sharp enough to get the job done, just sharp enough to cut a tomato without completely smashing it. But you shouldn't even feel a tomato when you're cutting it. It should just glide right through it like a red hot knife through butter.
Yeah, and Huck, you stole the thing. I was just going to say that because, well, that's one thing I learned is, a lot of people, that's where these commercial sharpeners, I think, are to blame for that because they get, these cheap, electric motor-driven grinding wheel, basically, and they just run their knife through that a few times.
Honestly, man, a lot of people don't even sharpen their knives. Like most people, unless they use them a lot, don't even sharpen them. Like I've known even most kitchen knife sets come with a steel to sharpen the knives on. Most people never even pick it up.
No, that is true. And yeah, the tomato is a perfect example here because you're cutting a tomato, and I'm sure a lot of people have been at home trying to cut a tomato and they're using a dull knife and how much extra force they have to use, and they squish the tomato. Now think of that tomato as your finger, because you're holding it there, so you're applying all that force to the tomato. You're squishing down the tomato as you're cutting it, and it doesn't cut all the way through, slips, and then slices your finger wide open. You still think it's a sharp knife because it just sliced your finger open, but it wasn't really a sharp knife. If you were using a sharp knife, it would just go straight through that, no problem. And actually, going to this Moras, I've actually switched to Moras as kitchen knives. I've got 2 I use strictly in the kitchen.
So Fernando's asking in the side chat, Buck 119 or a K-bar. I don't know about K-bar, but I know Buck has a lifetime warranty. And even if you snap your blade off doing something stupid with it, they'll still replace it. And they're also much cheaper. You can get a good Buck 119 for a lot less than a K-bar.
Yeah. And even though they've gone to the 420 HC, I still find their steel really good too.
Yeah, they still know how to temper knives. I mean,
Yep.
they're still a knowledgeable company. Like steel is a very, very rarely an example of quality or an example of hardness. Steel is usually just it's a material. It's just like saying brass or copper or anything like that.
Oh yeah, but there are so many steel snobs out there that they'll look at. They'll look at a knife and then say be Oz 8 or the 420 and they won't even think pick it up because it's not that super uber steel.
Yeah.
Which really isn't a whole lot much better than a good company's inexpensive steel like Buck's 420 or Cold Steel's Oz 8.
Yep. When it really comes down to it, it's a matter of geometry and quality of heat treatment.
If a company can do that right, and I'll name one. Kershaw does well with that for a lot of their knives. And I had an issue with any of their value branded knives. By value brand, I mean the quality of the steel here, which is the 8 CR13 MOV. Cold Steel's Oz 8. I'm not a huge fan of their Krupp's 6116 something like that. They're German steel. I'm not a huge fan of that steel. I just don't find that it holds quite the edge I like in my knives, but that's a personal preference.
Yeah, I like Outside A. All my EDC knives, besides folding combat knife, are all Outside A. That's my preferred beater steel.
Oh, it's a great beater steel. It's it holds its edge, for especially for the price of the knives. It holds its edge, really long time, and it's really easy to sharpen. I think that deters a lot of people too. So they'll buy the S30V, and they can't get it back to being sharp. Even me being a novice knife sharpener was able to sharpen Oz 8A. The first time I tried, relatively easy to shaving. Ooh, nice hook.
What are you holding up, Nathan? What is that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a set of Bokers that I got. I think they're made down in Argentina. They're made out of 440 stainless, so nothing fancy there. But this one is the stag handle. It has basically it's got the gut hook, and then it's got jimping, and you can put your hand on it there to get in and really kind of cape the skin off an animal.
Anytime I see a knife with that hook on it, I just want to run away. Because I've always had this phobia of being
skinned alive.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's because you're married like me. Okay, anyway. So then what I was telling you a little bit ago, Dano, was that this thing, it's really nice because it's in a sheath and it's got a button, but then the little smaller knife that goes in the sheath with it, it's got no retention whatsoever. This knife always falls out. It's so annoying. So I finally found a piece of stretchy cable that I can hook around the bottom of the sheath. But this right here is the caping knife. So it's just a little tiny blade knife that you get in things with when cutting an animal up, and they're going to drop points. So they're interesting knives. They're good design, and I like the stag handle, but they're not the highest quality steel, but they get the job done.
Yeah, it's okay. The other elk hunting knife you have is pretty badass.
Oh well, yeah. That in comparison, that's night and day. That's like comparing a Kia to a BMW,
Yeah, that's a hell of a piece of steel.
It's written really tiny.
In fact, piece of steel, I put it up to Bass Pro and get them to sharpen it because I can't sharpen it.
How is 434 steel? Is that weaker than 440?
I don't know. I don't know that one.
Yeah, this is what the M&P knife is made out of, 434 steel.
I've never heard that. A lot of the Smith & Wesson knives that I've been, that I was seeing, I haven't looked at them lately, is like the 7 CR something MOV. I cannot remember, a 7 CR 14 or something weird like that, or even a little bit less. And they're okay knives for for the price. So I'm not gonna say too much bad about them.
What's that, M&P knife?
I've only owned one, and that's been one of the cheap ones because I just wanted to throw something in to get free shipping at Amazon.
Yeah, I basically bought this on an impulse because it looks cool. It's like an alien. Looks like they had one that looked like a RoboCop type design and one that looked like aliens. So I got this one. I don't really use it for anything. It has a safety. I don't like that. But, yeah. That's about all I know about it.
Yeah, no, I've got, my fair share of knives. I've not experimented as...
Nathan, there's a question for you in the side chat.
Oh, sorry. I was replying to a text, but I've tried a lot, and I'm going to say from my experience, if I were recommending a new knife company or a new knife to somebody that just a company, I would tell them to look at Cold Steel first. From my limited experience, I'm no expert, but I would tell them to look at Cold Steel first because I trust their knife. They're made in Taiwan, I think, or Taiwanese or whatever. I think it's Taiwan. Yeah, Taiwan. There we go. Getting it correctly here. They're made in Taiwan, but Cold Steel does a great job with heat treating their steel, and you really can't go wrong with the knives at their price points.
I'll back that up.
We just lost Dano here. And I also would recommend, if you're looking for an assisted opening knife and you don't have a lot of money to spend, look at the Speed Safe from Kershaw, because at roughly $50 you can get a Kershaw Blur, which is a freaking outstanding knife in my opinion. They're awesome and they use a good steel.
Also, if you go to the Kershaw guys website, you can get them for sometimes like $25, and they're factory seconds. And all that's really wrong with them is little tiny minor imperfections in the finishes and stuff that you never even notice.
Yeah, and they'll have like 3 X's on the blade or 2 X's or whatever the X number is.
Yeah, they X them out and mark them as seconds, but I've owned 3 or 4 of them so far, and I've never ever had an issue with one.
No, and
Kershaw as a company, I can tell you for sure, Kershaw as a company is badass. I snapped a torsion bar one time in an old Blur that I got used, and sent it to them, and they replaced it, sent me an extra torsion bar and a tool to take the knife apart.
Oh, that was cool. I have never sent a knife back to them, so that is
I got
awesome.
one used, and when I have a Blur, it's such a sweet, such a fast action that I play with them all the time, so I end up wearing them out.
That was my problem when I first got mine. I've gotten better about that.
Yeah. Well, that's the cool thing with some of these companies. If you break something or wear something out, they'll be happy to replace it or send you the new part if you ask.
Yeah, and I bring something up about Cold Steel. I made a video about they're inexpensive. I can't remember the name of it now, but they're a little inexpensive.
The right edge?
No, the African knife that's got the little like keychain pull on there. To close the blade, you pull on the key ring. Oh, it's driving me crazy. Then I ended up sending back to Amazon, so it was I just got and I noticed that I had a bad edge, but I posted that video and Cold Steel actually watched my video, and they replied and told me to send it back to them. How many companies watch such a small channel like mine? They watch a video.
Aegis Armory. They watched my Trigger Guardian video.
Yeah, but you think about that. Cold Steel is a big knife manufacturer, and they're watching a channel with less than 1,000 subs. I'm one of their most inexpensive knives. If it's not their most inexpensive folding knife.
It's cool that they got their people out there watching YouTube.
I think that's just I think that is cool myself. And
what did they comment on it or something? I missed it. I'm sorry. I just got back.
Yeah, they commented on it. I can actually, if I can remember. No, I think I approved it.
They've replied to me in their comments before, but I've never had them comment on my stuff. I don't have many videos up anymore, though.
Yeah, they actually commented on my video. It was just my, saying that, I didn't even think I talked about it in the video that I was sending it back. I put that in the comments after I made the video, because it wasn't until after I made the video and I was playing around with the knife that I noticed that it had a weird bevel on the edge.
Somebody has a talking point. Well, talk.
Who's got a talking point?
Nathan, he's like waving this knife in front of the camera.
Oh, I was just looking at. I wasn't paying attention. Sorry.
Oh,
no, you're mentioning Cold Steel, and it's a 20-year-old Cold Steel. It's called a Combat Classic, and it's the one that I've never been able to sharpen because the stupid steel is so hard on it.
Yeah, I got it kind of sharp, but I couldn't get it sharp either.
Yeah, I always take it to the guy up at Bass Pro that has the grinding wheel and sharpens knives all day, and I pay him $3, and he puts an edge on it, and usually the edge will last a couple year or two, barring like if I continuously cut carpet or something with it. I mean, it really holds the edge a long time. But I always hated the handle on it because it was this black smooth material. So I sent it to Huck, and Huck put an elk antler on it for the handle. But then he surprised me because then
I got an inlay there for you.
he put an inlay in the back. There it is. Sorry to rotate it so it'd be the right way.
That is nice. Now, is that a moon, or what is that?
It's a moose with a moon, or not elk with a moon.
It's
Sorry.
Well, I see the elk.
blue azurite moon and a fossilized Arizona redwood sky, and then it's a hand-cut brass elk.
Okay. Yeah, I could see the elk and that there was something else in there.
Silver. It's silver.
Oh, is it silver? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even better.
Silver. And isn't there dinosaur bone in here somewhere too?
Yeah, he's standing on a little mountain of dinosaur bone, little pile
Oh,
of
the
them.
bottom part that he's standing on is dinosaur bone. Okay, cool. It blends in with the redwood because the dinosaur bone's red too that he's standing on. But anyway, yeah, I was quite surprised when I got it back, and I'm like, holy crap, he put an inlay in the back end of it.
Yeah, that's a good segue because I want to bring this back to Huck here for a second. Huck does a lot of customizations on knives, and that's an awesome way to make a knife your own is to have Huck do it for you.
He doesn't do a lot. That's what he does.
Yes.
Right. I
There is
mean,
a difference.
everyone can own a buck folding knife, but when Huck is done with it, it's your buck knife, and people will look at it and go, holy crap, let me see that.
Thank you. I do, and everything I do is one of one. So any customizations or anything I do are always one-offs, because everything's done by hand.
That's a good way to put it, Nathan.
Speaking
So
of,
I'll send Huck this one day and let him go to town on it. I don't even know what he can do to it.
Awesome.
Sadly, it's going to be a while till I get spare money, but I've been sitting on this since I made this trade for a buck 110 finger groove. Sorry, I forgot his name, but I made a trade with him, and I got this. The buck I really wanted, but I didn't want to spend the big money, so I did a trade with the guy. And I want to get that, for Huck to make it,
yours.
Yeah, exactly. Just because I want that done, and I want it done by a craftsman. I mean, I could do some modifications on it to make it a little bit better, but it looked like a piece of crap.
When you say finger groove, exactly what do you mean in the handle? The way it?
Yes, actually, you know what a buck 110 is. It's just straight down. They actually have finger grooves carved in.
Oh, okay. Do they even make that model anymore?
Yeah.
They do. It's limited, but Huck can fill you in on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely make them. You can get them on Amazon and eBay and stuff. They also do the 112, which has a little bit shorter blade, a little bit different shaped handle with finger grooves.
Yeah,
But those are a little more rare.
Yeah, they tend not to make a whole lot of them or do a whole lot of them, so they're priced more. Again, supply and demand. You can buy. I'm just going to give this a conservative price of $35, a regular 110. But to get the finger groove version, because there's a lot more tooling involved with the finger groove version as well, they're about $50. So it's a $15 difference. Not much, but definitely now that I actually have the finger groove and I've been playing around with it, it's a vast improvement over the 110. Especially if you're using it for as a hunting knife, because you get a really nice firm grip on that with the finger grooves.
And what I was going to say also about having Huck do something is, like, I built this belt and rig where I'm going to have my Smith & Wesson 44 on one side and then this knife on the other. I guarantee you when I run into other hunters up there in the mountains that more people are going to ask me about the knife than are going to ask me about the revolver, because they've all seen the damn revolver.
Yep.
They might go, is that a 44? Oh, yeah. but they're going to say, "Oh crap, let me see that knife."
You should see what I can do to a 1911 or an old revolver.
Yes, I'm going to have to someday get you a 1911 and have you make it like Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio. Remember that?
Oh
Oh yeah,
God.
those things were sweet. They had like the clear grip panels and shit. Blinged out.
Sword, 9mm. Put a little rosary on the bottom. I'm not Catholic. I shouldn't do that.
But now that we got GeoWebs back in here, because I guess you couldn't get the link from someplace else, but that's cool. I had no problem sending you the link, GeoWebs. We're going to go back to Glock knives because he knows a lot more about the history. I was hoping you'd be here in the beginning, but I definitely would like to hear you talk about the history of Glock knives. I saw your video on it, and I think I watched it 3 or 4 times.
Am I working now?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if I know the history as much as just there's the varieties that there are that I found. But yeah, they started making them before the gun, so they've been around for a while. And before, I just noticed one day doing something that they had a different logo before, I guess before the guns. And then you can get some of the knives that look pretty much the same, except that they've got the old logo on them. So then I noticed when I looked at the ones that I bought with the old logo, that the ones with the new logo are different too. So they've obviously changed just a bit over time.
Yeah,
So the one on top on your screen, is that the older one?
The old one is a circle.
Oh.
Instead of a square G, it's a circle.
Oh, yeah, the logo. I'm talking about the knife on your screen.
Yes, the knives on your screen, the blades look different.
Oh, that's not a Glock knife. It's a AES. So the Glock knife is just a knife that Glock makes for, what, the Australian Army or whatever?
Yeah.
Or the Australian Army, right? No, the Austrian Army.
Austrian.
So, other companies make the knife, and that's another company, AES, from Germany, I think.
Oh, okay.
So, different material and a little bit different. Otherwise, pretty close. It's got that little dimple in the handle so that it doesn't need the little clasp like the Glock knife. It just holds in there by friction off the belt loop, actually.
So when did they start making them anyway?
Stop making them? They still make them.
No, start. When did they start? I know they were made before the guns. Was it 78 or was that?
I don't know. I wish I knew. I think I found something somewhere about the knives and their history, but they're kind of vague once they get back to the old days. It'd be interesting to find out from somebody more details on it.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously there's a factory that makes them, so that means somebody designed them and somebody approved it, and somebody shopped for the materials. I mean, it's not like they happened accidentally in the back room somewhere. I don't think.
From what I read, and that was just brief, and this could just, forum talk, of course, you take that with a grain of salt. It was like, the 78 was made in 78, and the 81 was made in 81.
That would make sense.
Well, we know about Glocks and their numbering system. Yeah, it does make sense. And I know Gios has brought this up, and that's pride in what you carry. That's something that, I started to, after having that chat, started to really think about. I mean, yes, you can carry around, that $30 Kershaw, or $25 Kershaw, like the Oh So Sweet, which is, for everything I've been reading, one of, Artisan Tony's favorites, and a lot of people seem to like it. But then you can go ahead and, buy yourself a lot more expensive knife, a zero tolerance, a Benchmade, an Emerson, a custom knife, from, people that just make one-off knives. That's all they do, they'll, each knife is, made by one person, start to finish, kind of like what Huck was saying. So they are just a one-off knife, and you can spend thousands of dollars on a knife. Depends on how much you want to spend on a knife. And it started making me thinking, why, why are you spending so much money on a knife? And besides the practicality of having a knife with you every day, it's pride and ownership, and that's an important thing. And I started doing that. I've been carrying my my Benchmade a lot more, and it's not that expensive a knife. It's a $100 knife. To me, that's a lot of money for a pocket knife, but I started carrying because that's pride of ownership. It's a $100 knife. How many people carry around a $100 knife? But you can get even farther. So how many do you subscribe to that same kind of philosophy, or do you stick to that? It's a knife I'm going to use, and I don't care about it.
Well, you got one life to live, so do you do it with a box cutter, or do you do it with a cool knife that you can put on the table and be proud of sitting on a table?
So we know G-Web's answer.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Obviously, I provide those the higher dollar knives, so I'm all for it.
Nothing wrong with a nice box cutter.
Hey, we actually hear from Thin Blue Line. I did not think that was going to happen this chat. I thought it was just going to be
I don't know anything about knives. That's why when you were telling me to come in, I was like, didn't you tell me you're having a knife chat? What do you want me in there for?
Because we always need somebody who doesn't know about knives to make a fool of
Have
himself.
you ever cut yourself, or would you be willing
That's
to
why
do
I'm here. I don't know anything.
Yeah, you don't have to know anything about knives.
No, I would not cut myself down.
Give your philosophy, your point of views.
I mean, what it feels like on camera.
I know what being cut by a knife feels like. I don't need to do it on camera.
Well, it's not about need, is it? We always know in the gun chats we don't talk about need. We want.
I don't need, I don't have an inclination to cut myself with a knife.
We would like you to demonstrate.
You know what? I will do it if you all give me $1,000.
Okay, checks in the mail. Turn on your camera.
Checks in the mail. Sure it is.
I'm going to say this. Don't you just need like $300 for that Bursa anyway?
That was a good deal, and if I had it, I would definitely be getting it.
Hey, for $1,000, I want you to desk pop yourself in your thigh.
You would spend $300 on a Bursa?
Purse.
No.
said
It was
purse.
a Bursa Thunder 380 with 300 rounds of ammunition for $260. Bursa's gold.
The ammo is worth that much.
Yeah, exactly. The guy didn't know what he was doing. But for that price, I mean, down here I know Bursas are going for around $299, $350. So I mean, I was like, for that with all the ammo. Yeah, well, I don't know about on the streets. But I mean, for that price, I was like, I could pick it up, and if I don't like the gun, I could just sell the gun, make money off that.
You won't like the gun.
$50. I know a guy named Pookie that'll get you one.
My best friend has a Bursa Thunder 380, and not only does he regret it, the only gun that he regrets more is his high point.
Why does he run his high
It's not even
point?
that. It would be just for the ammo, because the ammo is worth more than $260.
They're both pretty solid little guns, especially for the price range.
I mean,
Well, what's the other gun? The
Was
Bursa
it the carry version?
The high point?
Oh well, my friend does not like his high point at all.
have we ever met anybody
I'm
who
sure he
likes
loves
that?
his Kimber though, or whatever he's all ape shit about that isn't a high point.
Well, he
I
for
love all guns equally.
for about 5 years he was stuck in, and I'm not going to raise anybody's name, but somebody who's on YouTube who's in love with the cheapest thing they can ever get.
Oh, good guy.
And if I can get a 45 and it's even cheaper, then it must be better.
Can you please be a little more subtle? Can you say, does he look like an Ewok?
Oh, I'm sorry. That was funny.
Anyway, he was just in love with inexpensive guns, but he always regretted them. I mean, if you buy inexpensive guns and you like them, that's fine. It just he didn't, but kept doing it.
It's like buying like a cheap whore. You never get what you actually thought
And
you were
then-
paying for.
If there was anything
That's a
funny
night
about it,
Oh,
he was
you know,
so embarrassed that he wasn't embarrassed about the brand, but he was so embarrassed because the gun performed exactly like everybody said it would, that he doesn't want to take it into a gun shop to get rid of it, because then they'll know that he actually bought one new.
I'm gonna say this, Dan. On Thin Blue's thing, it's kind of like going to the doctor to get treated for an STD.
Some things you just got to do.
Yep.
And if
Okay,
you got to
let-
go into the gun shop, put your head down in shame and say, yes, I bought it. Please sell it for me.
Yes. Now, Moon does have a question here in the internal, and I'll answer it because I'm sure other people have the exact same question. He asked who makes HK knives, and that's a Chinese-made Benchmade. Made by, there's a Benchmade line, and I've not experienced any of them, but I haven't read a whole lot bad about them. I mean, it's just, I could almost like Benchmade's value line.
My son has one. It's real sharp.
I'd get one. They seem pretty solid, except for my aversion to buying Chinese knives, especially when I could get a different color Benchmade and get one made here.
Oh, and I bring this up. Benchmade does offer on their website customization of knives. So if you're looking for a custom knife that you're not going to have to spend a whole lot of money on, you can do that too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Almost any knife company is going to have a custom shop, and if you give them a call, they can do wonders for you. I don't think they do it anymore, but SOG used to offer what they called a professional edge, so you get a desert dagger with a complete flat zero grind on it, and it's absolutely razor hair splitting sharp. And I don't think they offer that one anymore, but I'm sure they still offer some kind of custom knives.
They don't
Or,
offer it because it was too sharp.
Yeah, it was too sharp. Too many people damaging it and using it for a survival knife instead of a dagger.
Now, going back to the what I'm calling the higher price, the pride and ownership knives. Anybody got a favorite brand that they can think of? I'm talking about a manufactured brand, not just a custom knife maker.
Spyderco.
Spyderco makes some good ones, even though they are Chinese.
What?
Oh,
Some of them are.
they're made in Japan for a long time.
I
I don't know
know.
if they still are. but-
Spyderco. My Spydercos are made in Colorado.
Yeah, they make U.S. made versions, but they also make Chinese versions.
Yeah, almost every company does that now, even Buck and Gerber and everybody.
Okay. How about Ontario?
Again, almost all of their Ontario knives are made in the States for their expensive stuff. Yeah, it's actually not a bad one.
Yeah, I think their machetes are imported. I could be wrong on that. I think they import the machetes now, but they are fantastic blades.
Yeah, the Ontario Rat, their folding knives is what I'm thinking of here. They're more expensive ones are made in China, but they're a quality knife. They're a value knife, I should say. You get a lot of knife for what you pay for.
Well, they're not inexpensive either.
Nope,
No,
they're,
not what
they're
they're-
right up there with Cold Steel and the other premium companies. I mean,
Yes.
you're getting spending a couple $100 on your polished Bowies.
Yeah. For me, I'm gonna go Benchmade. I love their Axis lock system. It's if you never got to play around with an Axis lock system and you don't have a lot of money to spend though, I will say take a look at the Enland, the B, the Ganzo. They're a Chinese copy of a Benchmade, but they're made at the same factory that makes the Spyderco knives. The Chinese Spyderco, of course. So they actually do a decent job with the steel. They do have some drawbacks in their Chinese versions, like they tend to use red Loctite on all their screws. You get this what you get. Well, if you pay for, but for at $20 you're gonna drop on one, or 25, I think is. I think one of the more expensive versions. It's well worth it.
I thought you were talking about higher value knives like the.
Well, I am, but I'm segueing. But I'm going with the Benchmade. I want to bring that up as Benchmade, are freaking awesome. They use a great steel. I love my Griptilian, which is their Their blue line, which is a lower priced, because they make a blue line and a blue box, and I believe it's a black box.
Well, it's low, but it's not economical. I mean, it's not cheap line.
Well, I'm talking about
and it costs less than the black line.
Right, but what I was getting at here is our USA made knife. You can typically find, the Benchmades like the Griptilians. If you look between $80 and $100 online, especially if you can find some place that wants to give you a deal. So for a USA made knife, that's pretty decent deal. Because you look at other USA made knives, they can be a little bit more expensive, but you still get that nice pride of ownership in their lines because it's a quality knife. Anybody else want to chime in on this one?
Yeah, for higher dollar knives, I prefer 80s and 90s SOGs. Their Tiger Shark, it's like a $300 or $400 knife now, I believe, is one of the toughest, most insane bowies I've ever used. And they're everything down from there. Their sealed pup, they're all their old folders. Everything was made in Siki, Japan. They were all hand ground and hand finished and hand fitted. Very, very fantastic higher dollar blades.
Then that's a great point. Vintage knives. You can find a lot of great vintage knives out there that are awesome from companies that this is going to be a segue into another topic that have now turned to complete and total crap. Because there are companies out there that were once good and now, well, Huck can explain some of the disadvantages to like the Gerber knives.
I think a lot of companies just put or people pay to put a company's name on a knife and someone else manufacturing the knife, and it does a bit of a disservice to the brand name.
Well, it's just a matter of, knowing what you're getting into. It used to be if you bought a Buck or a Gerber, you knew exactly what you were getting. But now you can buy a Buck or a Gerber made in China or Taiwan.
Exactly, yeah.
I just bought a brand spanking new Gerber Prodigy for a customer of mine, and for just a little finder's fee type thing. And it was made in Portland, and it is a fantastic blade. They have not dropped their quality at all from that factory. It is awesome. The sheath is made in China, and it's a total piece of garbage. But it's, like I said, that you just got to know what you're getting. Know what you buy a Buck 110, it's going to be well ground, it's going to be hand finished. But if you buy the $9 Buck in Walmart, you're most likely getting something from China.
Yep.
And almost every company that I know of has done that. I know Spyderco has low dollar knives now. I know Buck and Gerber and SOG and Cold Steel all have value line knives now. And Cold Steel has been one of the best about it because they kind of have always produced overseas. Like they've always, some of them were made in Japan, some of them were made in China. They've had an interesting history with production and importing. But they've kind of they've always had a really good high quality standard. I have one of their Taiwanese knives in my pocket right now, and it has never let me down.
All right. Now, are there any manufacturers other than, like new production Gerber that you would recommend people stay away from, Huck?
Yeah, Frost. United Cutlery, unless you're experienced with knives and cutlery, it's a crapshoot. I've gotten some really fantastic blades from them and some really garbage blades from them that should have been fantastic. But mainly anything that says Pakistan on it, anything that says India on it. I've yet to see even old antique pieces come out of there that were good quality. I'm sure that there were some quality Smiths around, but they don't import all that much. So, but off the top of my head, it's just you can Google it really easily. If you're thinking about buying a knife, look up the company. It's just like if you were thinking about buying a gun, you do a little bit of research on it. Well, most of us would.
Yeah, most of us would, but I think people look at knives differently than they look at firearms.
I look at every single piece of equipment down to my shoes and my socks the same exact way.
Yep, I do the same. But a lot of people, especially people who aren't into guns or just everyday people, don't consider knives to be sort of like a, I don't know, a quality item. They see them as, I don't know, they have a cheap Swiss Army knife or a small pocket knife that they get for $10, and I think it's crazy that people could pay up to $100+ for a knife. And so,
Well, unfortunately, the world we live in today, that's knives don't play a huge role anymore. They only play a role for people that want to employ them. So you can get through life without carrying a knife. I mean,
What about knife fights over territory?
you could fight with a lead pipe or a brick pretty easily.
That's true.
I think that's a question.
I'd rather have 2 foot of lead pipe if I was fighting a guy with a knife.
And I've said that before in other chats with Corkin that I like knives. It's not that I don't like them, but I'd rather spend money on a gun than I would a knife. If I have $500 and I have to choose between a knife and a gun, chances are I'm going with the gun, unless the knife is just something really spectacular.
Same here. That's I've been making knives full-time professionally for 3 or 4 years now. I've been making them since I was a little kid, and I still don't own a knife that I've made.
That's part of this chat because I understand your philosophy. I actually somewhat still have that philosophy. When it gets to that price point, but for people that have that same philosophy that you do, Thimbleline, there are other options out there. You don't, to get a quality knife, you don't have to spend $500.
Oh no, I know. That was just like a number I was throwing out. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
honestly, it's a good number. Because that's where you break into the point of pride of ownership type knives. I mean, yeah, $200 or $300 knives are awesome. I sell a lot of them, but until you're spending way more than the use you're going to get out of an item, that's the level I look at as the just same thing with watches and cars. I mean, you can only drive 85 miles an hour on the freeway at the most.
You haven't been through Chicago, have you?
Yeah, I mean, like the American flag knife that Huck posted. I really like it, and that would be one that I'd consider actually getting if I had that type of money. That would be the one that I say, screw the gun, I'm going for the knife. But I mean, in my year of having these chats with you guys and all the knives he's posted, that's the only one I've actually thought, hey, I'd really want this over, a gun.
All his other knives suck.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all, and I've told him that multiple times. I like all his stuff. If I had $1 million, I'd buy everything that he makes, and I'd also buy guns. But I don't have $1 million.
But you'd throw it all away and only keep the one knife. I got it, Jim.
So I look at it the same. For me personally, obviously I supply these high-dollar knives, so I understand the people that want them and the reason you'd wear them. I consider it the same thing as a $1,000 watch, conservatively a $1,000 watch. The best watch I've ever owned was a $20 Timex. It was one of those cheap little Timex Indiglos, and it ran for years and years and years. I've had a professional watchmaker give me really nice watches before, and I kill them within no time, even the self-winding ones.
I'm wearing
I think that you had
little Indiglo watches right now that you're bad-mouthing.
I think you bring up a good point, though, about the watch. Now, all watches pretty much tell time, right? And then the fancy ones might have some other features on it, but you can definitely get a $30 or $40 watch that'll mimic all the fanciest features. I can't think of any feature that a really expensive watch is going to have. But what's its difference? It's going to have materials that are costly and that require an artisan who's had experience. You don't just give a new person who's building watches all the finest stuff and expect to get a great watch out of it. So nobody gives them the finest stuff. It takes an amount of time to become good enough to be able to deal with the nicest materials. So who wears that? Again, you only need to tell time occasionally. You're wearing that because you feel like, of your resources, that is, of the amount of money you can spend on things, that, if you feel like you only got so much time in life, and if you're going to look at your wrist to look at your, find out what time it is, why not look at something that to you is, cool or awesome or whatever your feelings are about your item or whatever. So same thing I think with a knife. I mean, you can definitely mimic the options or the use of it, but do you want to be able to own something cool, or is everything the bare minimum? And it's just, where do you draw that line? Do you draw that line with your vehicle? Do you buy like the most utilitarian vehicle, or do you buy the one that's the coolest that you can possibly afford? And then obviously that's a major purchase. So now, do you do that with your shoes? Do you buy the shoes that will work, like, from like the dollar store or like Goodwill? Like, you can always go to Goodwill and get shoes that will fit, right? Or do you buy shoes that look right with your outfit, or that don't stand out at work, or whatever your issue is? And then same thing with a knife, except that the knife is something that's in your pocket that you get, you can be fairly intimate with. You're gonna be cutting your food with it potentially, picking your teeth or picking your nails or something. Like, doing things that are, your time. This is my time, me and my knife together. So do you want to look at a cheap piece of garbage that, every once in a while you're like, dang, I wish this thing could do that, or this thing doesn't hold an edge? Or do you have something classy that you can, or maybe a selection of classy ones? So it's part of your day is figuring out what cool knife you're going to carry that day, and it doesn't matter.
That you've been spying on my closet.
But I want to, just something as a watch guy. When you spend money on a watch, one thing you're going to get is a Craftsmanship, and you're not going to get these, battery-powered digital displays. You're going to be getting normally a Swiss-made, hand-assembled, automatic movement or mechanical movement. You're going to get precious metals, and you're going to get a nice name brand.
Well, yeah, and that's the exact same thing that happens with my knives. My knives do not function any better from me than they function from Buck when I get them. I take a Buck 110, and I can sell it for between $500 and $1,000, depending on how much work I put into it. It doesn't do anything that a normal Buck 110 doesn't do, except for look good and have class, or have customizations, or have your initials on it. And like Quark said, you've got the materials. You've also got, a lot of people don't understand, you've got the materials that I cut away, the materials I grind away that end up on my shop floor. You've got the grinding wheel that wore down while I was cutting it, while I was cutting the stones. You've got my buffing wheel that wears down every time it touches a piece of checkering or a piece of tooling. So you buy a lot more when you're buying something that's assembled by hand. And you even get that when you go, like I said earlier, go to Buck and talk to them about their customs, or look up Buck custom factory customs, or Gerber factory customs. You get the exact same thing from those guys. You're getting a guy hand assembling, just like 1911s. You can get a Rock Island, or a SIG, or a Kimber, or whatever, and then you can get one of the really expensive $3,000 to $10,000 ones, or however high they go these days.
So, yeah, I'm going to say this one other thing about, you can get that exact same copy of the watch made in China, and trust me, there's going to be a huge difference. You can spot the difference miles away. And same thing with knife manufacturers. You can tell the difference of a copy of Benchmade versus a real Benchmade. They're very easy to spot.
That's true. And the one thing that I always look at, was touching on something about Huck said about function, was, I buy a knife to use, and when I think of knife, I think of kind of like a wilderness knife. And one thing that's always kept me from getting like a bigger, higher name, higher priced knife was, I don't want to kind of mess up something that looks really good, something that has a lot of time and custom work done into it. I'm always scared of damaging that, because I'm going to want to use that knife. And because it has so much work done to it, that as a result, I'm not going to end up using it. So that's the reason why I always don't end up going that route.
That's a big common fear, but people need to learn, once you own a few of these things, you get over it, because you don't damage them. And if you do damage them, if you happen to mess something up somehow, almost everything that's that high dollar has a guarantee of some kind, or service of some kind. It can all be repaired and fixed. But if you go out and buy a really, really high dollar knife, the finish isn't going to wear off like it does on a SOG or a Gerber. You're not going to chip the edge if you twist it a little bit while you're cutting into a branch, or cutting on a soft log or something.
Okay, I guess that's very true. And that's definitely true.
Cutting off.
And and a lot of these customized knives and stuff, there's some that are city carry, and there's some that are field use. So it just depends on what you're looking for in the knife. But again, a lot of things, one of those fancy Buck 110s, I'd wear that, you know.
He froze up on us.
Oh, sorry. But anyway, I wouldn't go gut a deer with it. But like this knife that Huck has made me has a really nice handle, but that's still the same indestructible piece of steel almost on the end of it, and they take an elk apart with it.
That's the same thing with again, the same thing with the $500 knives. I mean, you could take the buck 110 I do, and I've had guys drop them off their Harleys at 65 miles an hour, and they picked them up. The only thing that happened was the places the edge and the steel touched the ground was like marred and stuff. No problems with any of the stones or any of the silver work or anything. And I've had guys snap the blades off and send them to Buck. Buck just drives the rivet out, sends it, puts a new blade, sends it to me, and I retool the spots where the rivet wasn't tooled. And it's, you know, that goes for, again, most custom makers or, you know, at least the high dollar stuff. You have that kind of, whether or not you know it, you have a guarantee and an insurance plan, which is rarely ever used.
If you're talking about function and the ability to hold up to use, I see what you're saying. But like, let's talk about the knives that have like super intricate, I guess, design and artwork on them. That looks really cool. But do you think the same holds up for when that goes into use? That'll hold up as well? Because I think a lot of people are reluctant to put that kind of stuff into use because they like to admire it for its, I guess, beauty.
Yeah, it just depends. I mean, I can't really speak for anyone else's work. I'd have to know specifically what you're talking about. But like, if they're doing, you know, if they're selling a $500 knife and it's got inlay on it, I would expect that inlay to hold up to hunting or whatever else you'd want to do with it.
Right on. I guess I always separated the two, but that makes a lot of sense if those two can remain together, like maintaining everything about it and then just improving upon it.
I do this thing called wire brush skydiving, where you skydive into the trees where they get the wire brush materials from. And just as you come down, all that wire brush type material abrades against all the gear that you have on. There's your nice wheel. Stand up to that.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll try one then.
Dude, I've tried taking my knives apart with hammers, and it's not easy to do.
I like to use my knives to take the wool off sheep, but I have the really tough sheep with the steel wool. Where your knives hold up to that.
I'm just gonna tell you, I just use knives to shave cats.
Ugh.
Well, you don't want to get the fur in your teeth when you eat them, Cork, so that's a good idea. Mini-me, we do not eat.
And then Ed showed up.
Wrong.
I was going to say it hit rock bottom, but then Ed showed up right away, so then now you don't... Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna steer this back on topic here, just a little bit. Now, Thin Blue Line needs a decent knife. Okay?
I have a bunch of decent knives on Amazon that you showed me. I just haven't bought any of them.
Does they have a stone shit yet?
I'll send you a good knife.
He wants a pocket knife, correct?
I got a pocket knife for sale right now for $20. It's really sweet. It's got a bottle opener on it.
He doesn't need a bottle opener.
No, I have a knife. I'm looking for
You'll need a bottle opener in a couple of years.
Maybe you can use the pointy part of the knife for the...
Nathan not shaved.
I got a bottle opener
Coca-Cola
now.
bottles.
Okay,
He
well,
doesn't
now
like
that
to eat Coca-Cola because he gets all jumpy.
Nathan looks like he's talking all over his, like a
He gets
hyper.
Now, does anybody actually have a knife that, I'm going to say roughly, what are you willing to spend there, Thin Blue, on a knife?
I mean, the one I have now, I spent $30 on, so I mean, no more than $50.
For the $50 price range, Huck, would you agree with me with the Kershaw Blur?
I think he left.
What's the most?
Oh, he said be right back. Oh,
What's the
sorry.
most you spent on a
But I'm
knife?
pretty sure Huck would agree with me, Kershaw Blur.
Let me log into my Amazon.
Where's the
here
Kershaw
and see.
Blur made at?
It's...
I had a Kershaw Canadian design one. It was like 1 of 1,000 with the custom grips. It was the offset. I traded for 2 optics, and it's full everything fine, everything running exactly the way it's supposed to. That was like a $500 knife I bought for $80 at a pawn shop. And it needed the profile on the blade needed to be refinished again or reset, and I ended up trading it to what's that dude's name? Burrito guy from New Mexico.
Here's the thing I see
You
about
traded it to a guy from Mexico?
Yeah, New Mexico. Malfison Burrito, whatever the other. The guy, what's his name in the chat? His name, Malfison. I forget what the fuck his name is.
I don't think we've ever heard anybody in here from New Mexico.
Something Burrito.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Do they have internet in New Mexico?
Yeah, he's always in the chat window on Matt's chat.
Yeah, I traded him for a Spark 1 and Primary Arms optics. And I was like, hey. The knife was pretty, but I didn't do anything with it, so it just sat there in my damn safe. I was like, well, let's get something functional. I need optics. So it's a good trade. 2 optics. He's all like, why are you trading it for $250? Because if the edge was perfect on it, I'd be trading it for $4. That's the reason why.
I think for me, as a city knife, or something I can carry just around town, I carry a Leatherman. The new Leathermans that are coming out are super. They make those lightweight, the budget line, the wingman, the sidekick, and for me, I get a lot more use out of a multi-tool because
I used to carry when I was a tech.
I'm wanting to bring those up.
I used to carry my Gerber multipliers back in the 90s got me out of many fixes in the 90s. Dude. You ever got in a fight, dude, where some dude got fucking, got the better, you got to top you, and then you fucking swing that blade out and catch him by the gut and grip the shit out of his gut?
I've never had a guy get on top of me, ever.
In a fight, even when the fight, when you're rolling around the ground, and they get on top of you, and then you're like, fuck, dude, what do you do? He's wailing on you, like, fuck, dude, swing the fucking...
I think I'd shoot somebody who's laying on top of me. What are you talking
about?
I
didn't. I was like 17 at the time. I didn't have a gun, so I would... So you had the multiplier on you, and those things back in the day, the original multipliers, you'd swing the head out of it, and then it would come out, and then, man, you grab somebody by the good gut that they got, like the edge of the gut, on the love handle.
So you pinch them?
Pinch on them.
Pinch them?
Yeah, give a good pinch on them, and it's wouldn't let go. Oh man, they fucking get up like it's nobody's business.
Just tickle them.
Oh shit! Yeah, tickle them.
They'll giggle and fall over, and then you get up.
Yeah, you get them like, where are you going? You ain't going nowhere.
I'm gonna try the next time I'm attacked.
Tickle.
Tickle defense.
It doesn't work for rape. It encourages rape, so be careful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the last multiplier I bought was the Gerber Legend, and I liked it. It's just I did break I broke the scissors, the spring on the scissors. I broke the blade. I didn't break the blade, some dumbass. I broke the blade. That was like $80 when I bought it too. But the Gerber was good, man. They actually replaced it under warranty 6 years later, and when I finally sent it back in, and I had the original receipt, they actually did replace it under warranty and sent me a brand new one back.
That's awesome.
The Gerber Legend is not it's not currently made anymore, so that's a collector's item. There's a local gun shop we have. It's like one of the bigger ones, Nagel's, and dude, I saw it there, and it's a collector's item now. There's the retail is like $79.99 back in the day. I think I bought mine a little less than that, and they're asking like $120 or $130 because now they're collector's items. They don't make them anymore.
I think that it's real easy to, if you're talking about carrying a Leatherman, like just every day in your pocket, like front pocket of your jeans or whatever, it's really easy to, a lot of Leathermans are pretty heavy, they're pretty bulky and stuff, but I like the slim ones and stuff. They pretty much just have the pliers, 1 or 2 knives, and like screwdrivers, because that's all I really need on a daily basis.
My dad had the original model with a little leather slim case on it.
I thought we were telling him what to buy. Now all of a sudden everybody's talking about what they want. Or do we pass that already?
I don't know, man. I'm just talking.
Yeah, exactly. You come in here and you just start going in your own direction.
Yes.
What is this knife for? Quark is trying to get him to buy a $100 knife. He said he wanted a $50 knife.
No, that is
$100.
I'm sitting here offering $65 knives for $20, and nobody's even listening.
He's
I'll
listening.
take one
He's
of
darn
those.
him.
No.
He's not
Just give me a second here to explain. He's looking at. I linked him right to Kershaw's webpage.
Well, what's the knife for? Is what I'm asking. Just an everyday carry knife?
I
Or...
want to answer G-Web's question from Gary. He wants to know where the blur is made. It's a USA-made knife.
Oh, okay, that's good to hear.
Yes.
So, some of them
And
are.
they are roughly, for the green and black, roughly $53 and $54 for
But
those
you can
two on
also-
Amazon with the plain edge. I'm looking right now, $54.19 for the green. Black is $53.65.
I like the plain edge instead of the spicy edge.
Well, besides the partially
The
serrated.
blur is cool. The chive, several of them.
And the desert tan, if you want a desert tan, it's $52.21.
Yeah, here's a good question. What do you all what's I don't know really what's better or not, serrated or just plain straight edge?
I like
On a bigger, not bigger profile, but like I would say mid-size, knife. I don't know. I'm not that knife savvy to know all the details, but on a mid-size knife, I like serrations. But closer to the grip.
Have
you ever had a knife before?
Yes, I have. The two that I've had both had serrations on it.
What kind of stuff did you use your knife for?
It was mainly just opening packages, just stuff, around the property, cutting certain
Cutting
things.
coke, cutting lines of coke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well,
here's the
alright,
problem I have. Go ahead, G-Web.
tough use, like stuff that you had to go wipe the blade off, like wet
Not
paint
really.
and like glues and things, or is it
No, not
like
mostly.
poking through things, like having to every once in a while have to smack on the back of the knife because you're having to poke through heavy like plastic or canvas or something, or is it
mostly
cutting
just
where you did a
cuts,
lot of like
most
fine
cut
stuff?
Okay.
So I'm going to suggest that same concept of the multi-tool. Then, I mean, a knife is great, but if you're not going around to cut like really big stuff, that's a lot of stuff you're carrying around to cover a big blade. That if you're not even going to use it, you could get all kinds of use out of a multi-tool.
Especially if you're. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Like Edge said, if somebody tries to rape you, you can poke them off you with it.
And most
Well, no,
multi-tools
but-
have most multi-tools will have a normal blade and a serrated blade.
That's what I was going to
Oh,
say.
yeah,
And then
no,
you
I
can
carry-
save one blade for
I
stuff where
carry,
you're going to have to replace the blade eventually, and
I
one
carry
blade for
already
nice stuff.
2 different pocket knives and then a small multi-tool. I'm just looking for a tactical blade to carry.
Okay,
All right,
so
see, now that tells us a lot. Now you want a tactical blade, so why are you complaining about that $20 one Huck's giving you for freaking? That's definitely a fighting knife.
No, I didn't say anything about it. I was just looking at
You
it.
said there was no way I'd buy that. Huck might as well put it down and turn off his webcam. That's
I
what I
never
heard.
said that. What the hell?
Okay, so real quick, let me cover a couple of points real quick. I put the Kershaw guys Blem page in the Gun Channels chat just now, and I also put it in the side chat here. You can get Kershaw blurs for like $20 there sometimes, $25-$30 shipped.
They
Another-
have.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I just looked. They're sold out, but they had the S30V black one for $39. Which, if you go and buy that, that's half off what you'd pay for one that isn't a Blem.
When those S30V ones came out, they were a $250 knife. So getting them for anywhere under that is awesome in my eyes. Another thing, real quick, you were talking about serrations and what you're going to do with a knife. One of my most preferred designs, whether you like Tantos or not, you can do the same thing. It counts for a regular knife. I just like Tantos because the separation on the tip and the edge makes it a little easier to use them for different things. So on a Tanto, I always keep the tip razor sharp. And then I just usually use the edge as my utility, and I prefer one with a serration on it because I can sit and cut, tin cans all day and completely dull and round it, so I couldn't cut rope if I had to, and then the serrations will still cut rope. The serrations will still, cut tarp or anything that needs to be cut. They're really, really, really hard to dull. So that's one of the bonuses of serrations. They are a pain in the ass if you're cutting stuff that needs to be precision cut all the time and you don't want it tearing. But again, on one knife, like I said, for me it's a Tanto with serrations. You can do pretty much any job you need to do, whether it's using the tip like an X-Acto knife and getting in there and doing really fine detail work with a sharp tip, or using the flat to cut heavy cord or wire or whatever you need to do with it.
I used to carry a multi-tool all the time, and of all the multi-tools between Gerber, the Victorinox Swiss Army, and several variations of Gerber and the Swiss Army Victorinox one that they had, the Victorinox Swiss Army was the sexiest one out of all of them because the way the design, the finish on it is really really neat compared to any other one. Unfortunately, and that one got lost. I didn't lose it. I left it at a fucking customer's house once. But for the most part, that was a real cool setup. Lately, I noticed all of the Gerber ones. When you get them now, the pliers will break if you apply too much pressure to them. And I'm talking hand pressure, not like bulking up on it and trying to put all your weight on it. This hand pressure will break some of the molds that they're using lately.
What? That's ridiculous. Are you serious?
Yes, I have one. My buddy got me a badass kit.
Oh my god.
One that came with a
Which
flashlight and everything.
Which one?
I don't remember the name on it.
Some no name. Yeah, some no name.
No, dude, no, it's a Gerber. It's a Gerber. It was a cool looking one that had like all the cutouts on it. I have it there, because I mean, even though the pliers broke on it, I still use it for like can openers.
Skeletonized one?
Yeah.
Well, a skeletonized one will tell you probably right on there that this isn't our most robust one. This is for like holding a nut while you screw from the other side. It's not for.
Are you talking?
Well, the Gerbers. The problem is
Gerber suspension.
I was welding with my Gerber suspension and it snapped.
Yeah, it was a suspension was the one I had, and
those
what?
probably the lowest reviewed Gerber ever of all time. I mean, those things are I've squeezed them before and completely collapsed the handles.
I got a good old grip that I can put on stuff, but probably harder than most people. But the thing is that one all I did was twist it as I was gripping a nut or something, and I forget what the hell I was doing with it, and it just cracked right there, like the fucking bottom part of the plier cracked. They were like needle nose style crack pliers, and just cracked right in half. And it's like, well, fuck it, all the stuff is still on it, all the other stuff, so I'll keep it for that. It came in that badass kit though that my buddy got from my investor got me for Christmas, so I kept the case. That's what I use for my gun cleaning kit. And it came with a flashlight too, with different lenses on it. Yeah, it is what it is. But if I was gonna buy again, I know a lot of people like the Leatherman Wave. That's the real popular one.
I've got the Wave, and it's nice. I don't really. It's a little bit more than what I need on an everyday basis, so it mainly stays in the Jeep. But I carry a lighter Leatherman every day. But yeah, I mean, it's just like anything. There's different grades, whether it's a knife, a gun, or a Leatherman or a multi-tool. There's like the type where you're just gonna be really light with it, the medium duty and the heavy duty. You have to know what you've got and what you plan to use it for.
Well, the old school ones I love, man. The old Gerbers with the sling, you sling out the head on it, the pliers. I love those, man. Those got me a lot of pinches back in the days when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, especially the square-nosed ones that weren't needle-nosed. I use those things for everything. I've fixed all kinds of crap with those.
I guess I'm a bit younger, but in my experience, I just have not had any good luck with the Gerber brand, so I just don't really trust it anymore, or I never did. But I'm younger, so I didn't really experience.
Back in the day, Gerber was like the first one to really do it. I'll say Leatherman and them came out at the same time. They were competing head on. But my father bought me a Gerber when I was like 16. I remember I went to South Pedro Island, and they kicked us out of the pool at the Days Inn where they were staying at. And like, yeah, fuck your kid. And he put a lock on it. I grabbed that sucker, and fucking cracked the lock with it. Like, yeah, we're back in the pool, yeah.
Nice. But I don't mean like they're Leathermans only, but like I mean just overall, them as like the brand name. I have not had good luck with it.
The Gerber?
I think Gerber for what it's worth. I mean, I don't think they're the best knives. I think they're decent.
Should have been around in the 80s and early 90s, man. They're some of the best knives out there.
Right, that's what I hear. I hear they were, they used to be good, but.
Again, it's just a matter of
I didn't really care for the 80s.
Well, I mean, the Gator was like one of the biggest ones ever. Gerber Gator.
Machete?
The Gator was like that.
It's like a hunting knife.
Oh, you mean the rubber-handled one that's like...
Yeah.
It's kind of a
Gator
hard
grip.
rubber or soft plastic. It's kind of an in-between material.
Yeah, they're locked back.
Mm-hmm.
No, I have a straight one too. There was a whole series of them. They had a hatchet, I think.
Yeah, honestly their biggest thing ever has been the Mark II. I mean, that's like one of the most sought-after knives of all time. I mean, they
I
go.
always like that Applegate that they made, but I never owned one.
Yeah, I carry the Applegate folder every day now.
Mm.
One of my very favorite knives.
There's just so many cheap knives now to buy from. It's distracting to a lot of people to invest in a nice blade. I mean, shit, you go to a convenience store and they have like little fucking blades, you know, fucking the one I go to, and they have like 10 blades for sale all the time. Like, they're all junk, though. Hey, Huck, let me ask you this. I have a United Cutlery blade that has a little, like, star, really wide star, set where it's like 5 points. You have to use like sort of like special tool to tighten it. Are you familiar with that tool?
I'm sorry. What's that from United Cutlery?
United Cutlery, I have this one knife that a buddy got me once for like, you know, the Christmas exchange or whatever, the place I used to work at, and it has like 5 cylindrical points in it that are spread out like in a star, you know, whatever separation, and it seems like I can get like a CD-ROM tool and try to tighten it up, you know, but it's like you need a special tool that has like 5 points to tighten it up.
You can get a set of those different bits or those different pattern bits at Harbor Freight. Check it out. They're like usually like $29 and then on sale for $19 kind of thing. And there's a couple of them that are like screwdriver size for doing little stuff, and then larger ones for doing, well, probably like you're talking maybe a larger one. It's hard to say, but it kind of depends on the size of the knife. Anyway, there's some of them that are really small, and then some that are sort of small for tools, but you know, larger than the tiny one.
It looks like a proprietary tool that they have.
Yeah, look at the Harbor Freight thing. I mean, I probably could find you the ad. They probably give you a kit of like 30, maybe more, different patterns, because there's a lot of those.
All right.
And I always look for the 20% off or 25% off coupon too.
I just walk out the store. Don't chase me.
You got harbors in Texas?
Oh yeah, Harbor Freight. Yeah, we have just about 3 of them here, local in San Antonio.
Yeah, I'm going to tell people this right now. Never buy anything from Harbor Freight if it isn't on sale and you don't have a coupon.
They have Harbor Freight, and then they have the other one, Northern Tools Pacific or something like that, whatever it is.
Yeah, we have Northern Tools here. I bought one thing from Northern Tools one time, and that was it. After like a month, it broke, and I was like, I'm not buying crap from them again.
Has there ever been a knife you've regretted purchasing?
Me?
Anybody?
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
Everything I purchased until I was like 12 or 13.
So you did get one of those Rambo-style knives that broke with the first time you used it, huh?
Dude, I bought every knife that was in front of me.
I was about to say now, but say that they sold them at flea markets, at dollar stores, that Rambo knife, that rip-off, you know, really shitty looking. I had the kit and everything inside, like the handle. They were like horrible.
And the last one I had a bayonet.
I have one of those from Harbor Freight.
The last one I had, I got at one of them like Asian weapons stores in the mall or whatever. And it looked like a giant bayonet.
I think the knife was bad. You know, the sheet was even worse with the little polishing stone on the top end of it. Wire saw, and you know, the matches weren't even the good matches. The wick waterproof matches and all that shit. They're $5 or whatever it was.
I think I got mine for like $8, I think.
Yeah, those knives generally have a.
We do that to you. When I got it, it was like 1986. I think one of those knives hit the market.
No, they were around for years. It's an old design. They were just used to be made really nice.
I found one on Amazon that I want to get, but it's not my top priority.
I have a question for Huck.
Well, wait, I'm not done yet, because I've got one. One reason I regret purchasing because I only bought it because it looked cool. I didn't do any major research or thought into how it actually uses this knife besides, oh, it just looks cool. And it's an awesome knife, don't get me wrong. Huck now owns it. It's the Cold Steel Paradox.
I don't actually own it anymore, but yeah.
Well, you owned it for a while. Yeah, so.
I customized it and stuff.
Yep.
Why did
So,
you like
okay,
the Paradox?
now you can ask your question, Edge. Now you go quiet.
It was
Virgil.
a,
All right.
a perishable question.
Well, you remember in Rambo 2 when he uses like the back end, the serrated part of the blade to like cut through a barbed wire fence or some kind of. Do you remember that part?
Yeah, it's called a fence breaker.
Oh, really? So that's actually what the knife was designed to do for. Because I mean, I saw it, I was like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, no, they the really nice ones will actually have a place. It's cut at an angle. Like if you're holding the knife with the butt pointed at the ground and the tip pointed at the ceiling, the cut is actually at an extreme angle. So it's not like a flat spot. It's a weird little angle, and both edges are very sharp. And if you put a piece of fence in there and wrench the knife, it'll snap it right off.
Oh, wow.
I actually offer that as an option. Like I have a Camillus companion before.
That was bullshit kind of like things they did in the movie, like, it's like, Hollywood stuff.
I don't know. I don't remember the scene, so I don't know how easily he did it. They're pretty tough to use, but it does snap it. Like once it cuts it, it cuts it.
Well, he was ripped in the movie, man. He was all cut up. So whatever.
Yeah, and it's not the only thing that has it. The one of the Ontario Bayonets has that same style feature. The wire cutter. That's what I call it anyway. I think it's the Marine one has it actually built into the knife. All right. Anybody got any topics? You want to talk about wood knives, or I will end it.
Well, why didn't you like the Paradox?
We've talked about in the past, but we haven't gone over it recently about some states where if you have a concealed carry permit, you can actually carry whatever. In some states, you're still restricted. You can't carry you can't conceal a knife.
It's because so many people are untrustworthy.
Right. They know me. Just deadly knife with the guns.
Yeah, I really got to read into these laws a little bit more in Wisconsin, but I don't think they can actually supersede it. But we've got a concealed weapons license here in Wisconsin, and
Arizona, I heard as well.
Yeah, that means you can carry knives, pepper spray, not pepper spray, stun guns. That's what it covers. But there are a couple of counties that have length limits on blades.
Well, yeah, I think it's a 5-inch is the max you can carry.
In here, you cannot have a blade that's longer than 3 inches in those states, or 3 inches or longer, or in those counties, I should say. So,
I mean, I imagine there's a lot of farms in Wisconsin as well, but here it's rural Texas. People use knives for all kinds of stuff, depending on whatever. So the nomenclature of that stuff is usually,
the way I read the law, but I'm no lawyer. Even if you have your concealed carry, license on you, you still cannot carry a frickin' knife that is past their legal limit.
Yeah, it does.
So it's okay for me to carry around a firearm, but it's not okay for me to carry around a 3-inch knife.
That's the ultimate silencer, man. Get it right behind the lung, on the backside.
That's coming up here, G-Webs. I was going to bring that up. That's why I wanted to. Yeah, so definitely before you start carrying a knife, look at your state and local laws on knives.
And if you're gonna shank somebody, do it properly. And just follow.
Well, it's the last thing you want to, do is end up like that poor woman that was concealed carrying through New Jersey. Now, you don't want that to happen to yourself either. So, all right, now it is giveaway time.
Ooh, what are we
And we're
giving
doing
away?
the Glocktober giveaway.
Oh, I can't wait! 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 I can't wait!
You can't wait. Well, it's going to those that are not panelists.
Dickhead.
I'm jumping out.
And-
Wait a minute.
Later.
I've got to say, Some Guy in Sandy was the first poster. Also, was what made me cringe the most. I'm trying to find his post, but oh, there it is. He said, "I really, really, really love Obama." And because he said that, and because he was the first poster, Some Guy in Sandy wins the Glocktober
Do I get any
prize.
credit at all? Or he's some of the pie? Because I had to pay some guy in Sandy that he paid to just chat today. I was like, hey, do me a favor. It's Cork's chat. Come on. Guess what? All right, I'll do it.
Steve, send me your information on gun channels, and I'll pass it on to G-Webs. Is that how you want to do it, G-Webs, or you just want him to send it to you?
That's fine.
Okay. So
Yeah, you can just send it straight to me. I mean, I know who that is.
okay, yeah. Some Guy in Sandy sent it right to G-Webs instead.
I have to send you DB and a big DB last night.
So there we go. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Congrats, Steve, on winning. And thanks to all the panelists for contributing. It was an awesome chat.
Cork